Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of Vibe Makers. My name is Mirka and I'm an artist and arts educator with Vibe Arts. Today I'm going to show you a game that you can play at home that'll help you create your own monster illustration. Monsters are one of my favorite things to draw as an artist. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Vibe Arts for making this video possible. If you like what we do and you value the arts in your life, now is a great time to support us by donating at vibearts.ca/donate. So I'm going to show you a really fun game that I like to play with my students when I teach drawing or illustration classes. I call it the Monster Dice game. So how it works is, first you're going to come up with a list of different body parts for your monsters. I have a list of 6 body parts, but your list can be as long or as short as you want, depending how much you want to challenge yourself. Now I'm going to take my dice, and I'm going to roll the dice to get one number for each body part. So now I've got a list which describes what my monster is going to look like. I can draw the monster however I want. I just need to make sure that it has 2 heads, 5 eyes, 2 mouths, 3 arms, 2 tails, and 4 horns. So now that I have a list of monster body parts, I can start sketching out my illustration. I'm going to draw my illustration on Photoshop, which is a digital tool that I often use as an illustrator, but you can easily do your own drawing at home with a pencil, an eraser, and a pen. I'm going to start with the heads. And I'm going to make them fairly large so that I can have very expressive monsters. My monster doesn't have any legs, but it does have 2 tails. So I'm going to turn this into a snake-like monster with a tail that splits off into 2 parts. Because my monster has 2 heads, I'm going to create a monster with 2 different personalities, 2 different facial expressions. I'm going to make this into a scary monster. And I'm going to make the second head into a surprised or scared monster. I've given my monster 2 eyes on the first head and 3 eyes on the second head to make 5 eyes in total. Now I'm going to add the horns. Now I'm going to add the arms. You'll notice that the front arm is outstretched in a more aggressive way, like the front head of the monster. The back arm is in a more defensive pose. The middle arm is neutral. I'm close to having a more or less complete sketch of my monster. I've given my monster the 2 heads, 5 eyes, 2 mouths, 3 arms, 2 tails, and 4 horns. I'm going to add a few more details now to create a more complete sketch, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is still a sketching stage. None of these pencil lines are going to be part of the final product. I'm going to ink over all of these lines with a pen once I'm done sketching. At this point, I think the sketch of my monster is complete. But I want to build a little bit on this sketch that I have to create a more complete illustration that has a bit of a narrative behind it, a bit of a storyline. I'm going to draw 2 figures to create symmetry with the 2 heads of the monsters. This first figure matches the aggressiveness and anger on that monster's face. And I'm going to add a second figure beside it. Right now, it looks like my narrative is shaping up to be this girl fighting the 2 monsters. So maybe I'm going to add a little figure next to her, figure of a little brother maybe, that she's protecting with her sword. As I ink in my drawing, I'm going to zoom in and work on one section at a time, adding more details and adjusting my sketch as I go. And there you go, I'm pretty much complete the drawing of my monster. The only other step at this point is to add some color. When you're coloring in a drawing, it's a good idea to use a somewhat limited color palette. Decide ahead of time which colors you're going to use. I decided that my monster was going to be green and yellow. The belly part of the monster is yellow, which is the brightest color of the drawing, and so that's the part that stands out. The human characters are colored in purple and red. I chose these colors because they're complementary colors to the monster. Purple is a complementary color to yellow, and red is a complementary color to green. Anytime where I wanted to add a little bit of shading as detail, I used the same color but one shade darker. So for example, I have this dark green shadow under the monster's eyes. You can also use a similar technique for highlights. You'll see on the girl's sword, I added a line of paler gray down the middle to show that the sword is shiny. What I like about the monster dice game is that it allows me to create within a narrow set of parameters. In this case, a list of body parts from which to create a monster. But from those body parts, I managed to create a whole narrative, the beginning of a story. If you create your own monster at home, I hope you continue to explore this character and discover what else your characters can do. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Vibe Makers. My name is Mirka Loiselle. If you like my work in this clip, you can see other things that I've done by following me online at Mirka Illustrates on Instagram and by checking out my portfolio at mirkaillustrates.com. Be sure to also follow Vibe Arts on social media for more great artist content and donate if you can at vibearts.ca/donate.